Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of our podcast dedicated to the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda, or as we like to call it, the YPS. Today, we're going to delve deeper into what is YPS, why do we need it, what are the young people in Albania and in the Western Balkans doing to actually push this important agenda. I have to say that this podcast is hosted by me, Kreshnik, together with my colleague Flutura, who together we work for the local branch office in Albania of the Regional Cooperation Office. And we are very lucky to actually have this podcast, but also this being part of a series of 6 podcasts, each organized in each of our local branch offices in the Western Balkans. Also, our colleagues had the great chance to meet young people and change makers from their own society to talk deeper and to actually explore what YPS means in their context, but also in the regional context. And this podcast and this series of podcasts, we are very lucky to have them through the support of our project Recognized, which is funded by the German Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs. A big dankeschön to our friends from Germany for believing in RYCO's mission in supporting regional youth cooperation. As I said, I'm not doing this alone. I'm doing this together with my co-host, friend and colleague, Flutra, who I'd also like to give the floor to introduce our amazing guest.
Thank you, Kreshnik, and hi, everyone. Indeed, we are very excited to have here today with us two amazing young leaders joining and sharing their perspective on YPS. One of them is Enia Hoxha from the National Youth Congress of Albania.
Hi, everyone.
And the second one, it's Kristel Hasani from the United Nations Association of Albania.
Thank you for having me.
Both of them have actually been driving forces when it comes to youth activism in Albania, but also peace building. And today they will share with us some insights, a bit of experience, but also why not some aspirations when it comes to the YPS agenda across the Western Balkans. As we have actually had them cooperate with us in former activities and events that we have organized. Today, I think it's a real treat to actually have them here and share a bit more on the personal level what YPS means to them. But before maybe diving into the questions, let us unpack a bit what YPS means. And why Resolution 2250 it is such a game changer for young people today, but also for the context that we live in. And as it seems actually that we talk a lot of YPS and it takes a lot of our attention everywhere, we actually believe that it is not enough and more awareness and actually focus should be put to YPS. So YPS stands for Youth, Peace and Security, and it is a global agenda set by the United Nations Security Council to recognize the critical role that young people play in preventing the conflicts, in sustaining the peace, but also in building more inclusive societies on the context that they live. Resolution 2250, it is adopted in 2015 and started initially as a movement from the young people globally and worldwide. And it is focused nowadays on 5 pillars, which everyone should know, and them being participation, prevention, partnership, and as well as disengagement and reintegration. RYCO, on the other hand, has YPS right at its core in the strategic plan and work. And since 2022, we actually started a project on YPS where advocacy on the local and national level, it is the main focus. And also through the project, we are aiming to empower as well as we are actually amplifying the efforts. So the YPS agenda has a more important and critical role across the Western Balkans. It's a lot of information maybe to absorb. Did I miss anything, Kreshnik?
I think you covered the biggest part of it. Maybe it's important also to mention why the YPS agenda is also important for the Western Balkans, because maybe there is this idea that the YPS, when we talk about peace and security, it only connects with societies which are in conflict. But it's actually not the case. And I'm sure that also through our discussion today, we'll actually explore what we can do better to go from what some political scientists call negative peace to positive peace. So to have a society which is uh, um, uh, already embracing inclusivity and social cohesion at its best. This is why what we always say in RYCO is that not only peace and security, but also reconciliation. It's not a destination, but it's actually a work that we do every day to have something sustainable. And I would say maybe it's like the little plant that we water, we put into the sun, and we want to make sure that it flourishes. But actually, once it is flourishing, it's not the end of our work. We have to keep watering it. Same thing we have to do with our very fragile, but on the other hand, very important piece. This is why today I think it's very important to discuss what we can do, but also what our young people are actually doing about it.
And so that, let us maybe start with a bit of retrospection or self reflection when it comes to peace. Because both of you have actually been engaged and you are working with young people since a long and peace initiatives since a long time now. And it happens that most of us perceive peace based on the context that we come from and also based on the work that we are doing. And for me, it happens that really this perception of peace it changes and it shifts from what I'm engaged or what am I doing at the moment. So I think we'd love to hear also from your side, what do you associate peace with? I mean, what is peace to you? And is there maybe any moments in your life, a reflection where actually maybe the community, your family, or education kind of helped shape how you see peace today? Whoever would like to start first.
Well, Flutura, thank you for the question. It's a very valid one, I would say. It is true what you said that peace comes in many forms and in many definitions as well, by based on the person who precedes it. But personally, what I think of peace, I think of it as justice, inclusion, free will as well, and the freedom to feel included in a society without being discriminated. Of course, there have been many factors that brought me to this definition myself, and one of the biggest ones I would say is my background. I come from a smaller city than Tirana, so not as many opportunities maybe as Tirana, but still a quite bigger city than the other regions of Albania. So I still was offered some opportunities at the end of the day. But what happened was that near where I lived, there were many marginalized communities with different backgrounds, young people who were going through different problems. And I had the chance to go there firsthand and to see everything myself. How these young people are living, what are their problems, and how I could work with them and how I could help them with the help of the other parts of the community members, of course, to be able to strengthen the bond that we had and to offer more opportunities for everyone.
Thanks a lot for sharing it. And I think that's your perspective, but also the context that you are coming from. For sure, it will resonate with a lot of young people that we have in Albania, but also in the region, right? Was it the same for you, Kristel?
Similar in the lessons that I think I've learned, but coming at it from a different angle. Peace to me is more so compassion to others, mutual understanding, and the ability to live together in harmony. And of course, that I think this notion, this understanding of peace has come to me through my upbringing, but more specifically from my educational background. When I was 16, I was awarded a scholarship to attend the United World College of Changshu, China. And the United World Colleges is a global movement. It's a global educational movement that has at its core the mission to use education to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. So it's very deliberately diverse. It is built upon a set of values that promote understanding, that promote intercultural understanding and mutual responsibility, personal integrity, and all of these values that I think are the foundation of peaceful societies. So when I was at UWC, I of course got to learn a lot about geopolitics, but more so I got to learn to see the human in the other person, even in people that felt so different from me or had a very, very different background, whether it was upbringing, cultural, personal beliefs. And I think it allowed me to go beyond these identities, these small boxes that are sometimes shaped by societal factors and external factors, and not so much, and they become internalized, but they're not so much representative of how we want to interact with other humans and on a deeper personal level. So in that sense, it's been very eye-opening and transformative for me to not other or exoticize what's different, but to approach it with curiosity, to approach it with openness, and to show me that we can truly live together because we're more similar than different.
Thank you very much. And I think we're going to go back to that societal factors that are actually affecting peace. But before going there, because I hear and I see that we have two very interesting perspectives, beautiful, diverse perspectives. On one hand, Enia, who saw the possibility to support in her own community in Elbasan, and then on the other hand, Kristel, who had this, I would say, maybe brave decision from her and her parents to move in a very young age in a very far continent. But on that, I would like to actually understand, as we see inwards and now we try to extend peace outwards, um, what how did actually activism start for you? What was the thing that went from a thought into action? How did it start, and actually how does that connect with the YPS agenda or to your contribution to peace?
Well,
Can start. Yeah.
I actually love this question because it makes me go back many years ago, because my activism or my journey started when I was only 12 years old. So that's quite a relatively young age, someone would say. And it started by engaging in an organization, international one, Save the Children of Albania, who was working in my city. And me and some of my friends, just like other 12 years old, were like, oh, this seems cool and let's join it. But it was more, now that I think back at it, because at the time it seemed just something fun. It was more than just going and engaging and having some fun with your friends, because there is such a bigger and deeper meaning behind it. Because through trainings and engagement, I actually got the chance to learn more about peace building and how to be a key factor or actor to lobby and advocate for it, whether it be in a local level and then going the steps up to the national level and the international one. It has been quite important for me, because then I started volunteering with many other NGOs, started being more active, focusing more and more on the YPS agenda, specifically on two pillars, which are participation and prevention, because those were the ones that were the most relevant with my work and with the background that I mentioned a bit before. And from then on, I had the amazing opportunity to work with the NYC as well, to implement some projects. But I just have to say that throughout this whole journey, I'm so happy that I've been able to touch souls, I would say, and to be able to work with them, to collaborate with them, and hopefully to have inspired them to become role models for the other young people who are to come and to become other advocates.
Thank you very much. Kristel?
So I too would say that I've started a little bit of activism when I was still in Albania, when I was in high school. But because I left at such a young age, I think that most of my activism has sparked there when I was in China. A big reason for that is that UWC was so big on promoting giving back to the community, and especially when you feel that you've had this amazing opportunity, you feel grateful for it. You also have this sense of responsibility to give back and to become a more organic part of the community you're now in. So in China, we would teach functional English to the local staff, for example, so we could make a stronger connection and not just feel like there's these local people who are here to work for us and with us, but we're so disconnected from them because of language barrier. We would also go a lot to the local village and interact with the kids, teach them whether it was English or help them with their homework or do like different activities that we had the opportunity to do because our school was so advanced and of course like funded as well. So we would try to extend our opportunity to those that we felt had less in a way, but more so to give to us on the human perspective and to share with us, so we could truly feel like we were part of a bigger picture and not just this bubble in the school we were in.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I mean, very valuable personal experiences, and I knew it that it was going to be inspiring. This first part, right, the segment of being personal. Now, maybe moving on to the local level, which of course is going to bring different, I think, insights. As we mentioned at the beginning, RYCO, it is actually committed to advancing and working with YPS agenda on the local level, but also on the regional one. And when it comes to the local level, we have entrusted the National Youth Congresses to actually take on a coordination role and help us identify what are some of the main priorities on the local level to be implemented annually. At the same time, what NYCs are doing, they are also assessing the needs and see how RYCO can best contribute to the each respective need. And in that regard, Enia, what is actually that is valued as very important from the National Youth Congress in Albania that RYCO is supporting this year on the initiatives?
Well, the NYC, to start off, is an umbrella organization. And amongst our many member organizations, we feel the need to represent them, but we cannot do that without the help of our friends, in this case, RYCO. And there are two main elements that I would like to discuss and focus on when we talk about our collaboration. The first is mapping of CSOs on the perceptions of the YPS agenda in Albania, which has to do with exploring the challenges and how to outcome them when it comes to collaborating for the same goal, which is the YPS agenda implementation in Albania specifically. And the second one, which to be honest is one of my favorite ones, is the new GEM policy paper, which has got to do with AI. AI, it's a concept, a worldwide concept, I would say, that is taking so many fast steps in the world, and it was about time to implement it in Albania as well. When we mix it with the mapping of the CSOs that we talked about, it creates a bigger picture, which is working towards finding the gaps in policies and youth policies in working for the YPS agenda, how to tighten these gaps and how to work together. Yeah, it's important, I would say. It's something new, and it has the youthful spirit to it, the digitalization and using technology in our advantage.
And it is actually, I mean, both the topics are very relevant when it comes to today's context on the YPS. So all of us are looking forward to having the papers, and why not maybe sharing with a bigger audience to see the comparison, right? Also with the other NYCs or young people in the Western Balkans. On the other hand, Kristel, UNA has just finalized the Peace Week in Albania, and this year, under the motto YPS Agenda in our region, where are we and where are we going? Could you maybe walk us through the program highlight this year and what maybe emerged as some of the key conclusions or outcomes of the Peace Week? And maybe to say from our side, kudos on the implementation of a successful Peace Week, I would say, with very interesting and interactive panelists and panels at the same time.
Thank you very much. For us, Peace Week is a very important moment in our year, and it's something that we look forward to and we work for throughout the year. And we're very happy to be doing it for the third year in a row with your help and support. Peace Week this year, as you mentioned, was focusing a little bit more on the future, and we wanted to do this because we wanted to take a moment to truly evaluate both where we've come from over the past 3 years and where do we want to go, so to kind of shape the path forward. It was very interesting because this year we tried a couple new things. For example, we wanted to bring in a more global perspective on YPS and not just the institutional one, not just talking about the UN strategies and documents and declarations, but more so how are other regions localizing and implementing the YPS agenda. Of course, that the Western Balkans is the most relevant to us and that we relate to the most, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned from how other regions are going about including youth in peace building efforts. In one of the panels, we had a girl from from Egypt, who's been working on YPS with the Cairo International Center for Conflict Resolution, Peace Building, and Peacekeeping. It's a mouthful one. It was lovely to see also how the YPS is progressing in the Arab region and in Africa more broadly. We also wanted to bring in more diverse perspectives, so we made it a point to include a representative of academia and researchers as well, who can give us the more theoretical background, but not just in an intangible way, but rather in a form that can help us dig deeper into some topics. Then we also really wanted to incorporate in all of the panels the youth perspectives. So we would have young activists or young people from both Europe, the region, and more broadly, who are doing a lot more so on the grassroots level on YPS. And because peace is such an all-encompassing theme, we of course always try to look at the cross-cutting issues within peace and conflict as well. So we two of the panels were focusing on something a little bit more specific than the YPS agenda. One was on education and the role that education can play to prevent conflict, but also to promote more peaceful attitudes and a peace building mindset. And the other one, as you said, I really love that the National Youth Council is working on AI as well, because it's the future. Everyone says it, but beyond the cliche, it's impossible to ignore the fact that technology plays such a big role on every aspect of our lives. And we wanted to also look into more deeply into how we can make technology our ally in peace building and conflict resolution. And to that end, I would love to mention one very interesting initiative from Culture Pulse. They use AI in a quite special way, I think, to inform policymaking. And they've worked with UN agencies all over the world, with governments as well. What they do is that they create a digital twin of society. So they take some of the key factors, analyzing a wide range of emotions and news, and extract from the media how a topic is being discussed, what is the language used, and they build this digital twin of a society. And within that, they tweak factors to see how influencing something can influence the outcomes. So that's something to look towards in the future as well. How can we use technology to serve our peaceful processes?
It sounds scary at the same time, and as the helpful as scary at the same
Yeah.
time. But I also wanted to ask you, Kristel, because within the Peace Week, we also had the chance to actually gather some of the organizations who are actually working now on the YPS, but also are part of a very important network that both organizations founded 2 years ago. Can you tell us something more about the meetup?
Absolutely. That was also one of the highlights of Peace Week, and we ended on a good note, I think. The meetup was meant to bring together all the actors in Albania who are working on YPS, on the implementation of YPS, but also more so on promoting the agenda more broadly. So that was an important aspect, because, as I said in the beginning, when we're talking about the future, we cannot do that without reflecting on what we've done so far. And the other aspect of it was the need to not only map out the initiatives, but also see what have we done, what has been successful from those, and how can we coordinate in a better way so as not to duplicate efforts, so as not to have fragmented initiatives. In that sense, it was, I think, very much needed to both evaluate the challenges that we've collectively faced, but that also individual organizations has seen in their everyday line of work with YPS, and then to move forward to the successful initiatives, and lastly to where do we want to go, and what are the next steps that we can take, both in support of one another, but also in advancing our own personal goals within the YPS agenda. So we can never do it alone.
It takes a village.
Absolutely, always.
I mean, I'm very glad that this year actually, as you asked and we supported, we actually had the chance to have this combination of research work and on a very tangible, I would say, not only panels, but a conference YPS on a global, regional, and local level. So also the BITAP served as a very good input for the research that NYC, that the National Congress is also doing. So I think those two things fit very well together. And we really thank you for pushing forward the architecture of YPS in Albania. But we discussed the efforts, and I also want to go back now a bit to what Kristel started mentioning in the first answer or the first question regarding these societal factors that actually affect the YPS agenda, that actually affect social cohesion. What would you see as the main challenges when it comes to phenomena and issues in the world, in Albania or in the Western Balkans, that is actually affecting the YPS agenda? But to make it maybe a bit more focused, let's start with the Albanian context.
Yeah, actually, I'm so glad that Peace Week was brought up because just 2 years ago in 2022, I had the amazing opportunity to go to these marginalized communities that I was talking earlier about through some youth-led initiatives to talk to the young people, to see what their life is and what their challenges are. And among different challenges that they mentioned, the top ones that seemed to be the subject of everything would be lacking opportunities, lack of good education, extremist violence, and economical instability. And it is actually surprising how many challenges these young people go through, even though we live so close to them. But we try to work with them regarding the challenges, especially connecting them to the YPS agenda, to the two main pillars that I talked about earlier, which are participation and prevention, trying to raise awareness, educate them, and try to engage them more. Because something that has brought a lot of hope to throughout my work is the fact that whenever I have the chance to work with young people from these rural areas or marginalized communities, is the hope in their eyes and the fact that they are ready to grab the opportunity or grab your hand as soon as they notice it. So yeah, there are many challenges, but the will to try to overcome them from the young people at least, because we know that the stigma in between different generations is different as well. But the hope is there to work towards a better future, I would say.
Very valuable what you say, Enia, because actually the power of non-formal education, it is very crucial when it comes to working with young people, and especially with the target groups that we do not usually work with. And not only the power of non-formal education, but also peer-to-peer education, because as I remember, you're also young when so you got trained, and then you got the opportunity to actually connect more with those young people coming from either marginalized or vulnerable groups, but also that are located a bit far away from what we work with in Tirana. So again, yeah, thanks a lot for doing that. I think it's very beautiful to do the peer-to-peer work.
I also really love that you're bringing in the more local perspective because, as I mentioned a little earlier, sometimes we get too stuck up on these abstract notions of what YPS is and agenda and documents on end, which can feel really intangible to someone who's experiencing it on a more practical and personal level. And going back to what peace means, I've also had this opportunity to see what peace means to young people and connecting it to the challenges that they're facing. So, for a lot of young people, peace meant also addressing mental health or addressing gender based violence or addressing their lack of financial opportunities. And in a way that made me think a lot about what are the challenges that people are facing that are preventing them from living up to their full potential. And for example, according to the Global Peace Index, Albania ranks 42nd, but we don't have either a domestic or an international conflict. So what Kreshnik was explaining at the beginning, peace does not rely on not having a conflict or a violent conflict, but rather there are so many other factors and indicators going into it, whether it's likelihood of violent demonstrations or incarceration rates or perception of crime rates or even displaced communities, economic opportunities. So these are the things that our youth perceive a lot more on ground. These are the things that they associate with peace and with a lack of conflict. So it's also about internal conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, and not just on a state level or on a more global level. The challenges that I would, one of the biggest challenges that I would highlight in my personal view, and it's also something that we were discussing during Peace Week, is the fact that youth are today a lot less, they feel a lot less inspired, and they feel that they are facing challenges in a more isolated form, that they can relate less to either the older generations or to the structures and the institutions that are representing them or meant to support them. And the role of education there becomes very crucial, because I'm also including non-formal education in that, because we have this duty and responsibility to show our youth that being peaceful and living in harmony is cool. It's better, it's achievable, it's present, and we can all contribute bit by bit to this larger goal that we all want.
Of course, we would love to hear more from the ground, but I'm sure that we will have other spaces to share also in the coming year when it comes to what's RYCO is bringing. My task now is to again make the bridge and go from the local level to actually the regional level. So addressing the YPS agenda was also one of the key conclusions of this year's Western Balkan Youth Forum held in Berlin in October. And Enia can share for sure more insights about it, because she was one of the lucky ones to attend the forum together with other young people from the Western Balkans. But also in line with this, other studies such as the RYCO Shared Futures, they highlight that young people in the Western Balkans share a sense of trust and curiosity about one another, but they are also optimistic about actually treating and working on the abstract topics, no matter how they can be, such as and regional challenges such as peace building and also reconciliation. In that regard, based on your personal but also professional experience, because NYCs, they do cooperate with their sister organizations in the region, but also it's the same about UN Association Albania. How crucial do you think it is to align the regional YPS agenda, in your opinion?
Well, to start off, being part of the Western Balkans Youth Forum in Berlin in October was quite an important moment for me, because even though I get to be in contact both through my work with other youth workers throughout the region, this was a very important moment, as we were all brought together to discuss on the same topic and to work through our challenges and differences towards the same goal. Regarding the fact that we need to align the YPS agenda, the short answer would be very important. The long answer, to go a bit more in depth, is that we cannot work towards the same goal to bring peace, reconciliation, and all the other elements that we talk about without having an aligned agenda and to be on the same page, let's say it that way. It's very important to point out our challenges and point out the fact that we need to overcome them all together, to see that in the region we are mostly the same, that we have more similarities rather than differences, and yeah, at the end of the day we are working towards a better regional future, so it's very important Not only that, but through the cooperation in the region, there have been many things possible. But amongst them is bringing the young people together, which is a very important topic. Not only like the youth policies that we were discussing about, but not only that, using the expert pools, different resources that help all of us to understand how to do a better work, how to overcome challenges, and how to implement the YPS agenda, which is the most important thing at the end.
Thank you.
Right, I absolutely agree, and I think you've covered a lot of what I would also say to this question. I think it's very important to be able to align our efforts. And in light of what we were also saying about the meetup, if we extend this to the regional level, it could be very productive and it could help us both align our goals, but also be able to get more lessons from one another, exchange best practices. And that's something that I think we're all to some degree trying to do. Especially, as you said, with the similarities that we have and the shared objectives of either joining the EU or advancing our cooperation amongst each other in the Western Balkans, it's crucial that we redefine peace as something that's broader, as something that has more benefits than just, as we keep repeating, a lack of conflict. And it will speak more to the resilience of our societies to be able to absorb shocks and not fall to violence, not fall to democratic backsliding. So it would strengthen many other institutions and it would serve other purposes and broader goals towards having a more sustainable society.
And yeah, maybe to add something to what Kristel said, which is a very valuable, just another note would be that we cannot work on a national level without thinking about the regional level. We can all draft policy papers, work on projects, etc., etc. But what it's the most important, it's to be aligned with everyone else, with all the other societies, just to have a bigger impact, because alone, just how the our saying goes in Albanian, you cannot do much, but when you all gather up together for the same goal, then you can do something big.
Definitely. I mean, I would agree with everything that you said. And now I'm even more curious to actually listen to other podcasts and hear what the other young people, youth leaders said. I'm sure that there is a lot of similarities that they stated there for sure. Kreshnik, what is RYCO cooking in 2025 when it comes to YPS agenda on the regional level? What are we going to implement? What kind of initiatives hand in hand with our friends here and other partners?
Thank you for also asking me a question. Um, I think it's important to mention also what we did in 2024, actually, when it comes to the YPS agenda, because it was mentioned in this podcast. When it comes to the local level, the National Youth Councils are our main supporter and the main change maker or leader of the YPS agenda for us. But when I say the NYC, it's definitely them in coordination with the organizations who are also working on the YPS agenda. So on the local level, we fully trust the local context to bring forward the initiative. But on a regional level, we are taking a more coordinating role. And for that, it's definitely worth mentioning that this year we initiated our first YPS Academy, which gathered participants from governmental institutions in the Western Balkans, including ministries of education, ministries of defense, ministries of justice, ministries of interiors, who are usually not our direct target group. And also we saw their perception that they are maybe not directly connected to us, but they are very important in case we want to talk about the YPS agenda and the importance that certain policies should not be only direct to young people, but certain policies are affecting young people. And they had a chance through the academy actually to go deeper into the YPS for them to actually understand what is the YPS and how they can support its future implementation. But they were not alone in this academy. We also invited them together with other international organizations working in the region, including Regional Anti-Corruption Initiative, Western Balkan Fund, the RESPA, because we see also their role in joining forces for the YPS agenda. They said that we are also working on a very important concept, which is the peace capital, quite an innovative idea, I would say, goes in line with the youth capital, cultural capital, and we would like to actually contextualize, put it more in a local context, peace. We are working on that concept, and we would like to have a concept by the end of this year. And next year, we are going to see how we can actually put that into implementation. On the other hand, for everyone except us who and except you two who definitely have a deep understanding on the YPS agenda, for everyone who would like to know more about it, there's also a small, maybe not that small, but there's a knowledge hub in RYCO website on the YPS, for which we collected actually, for which we actually collected documents, studies, which were prepared by our supporting organizations, or better say, by our collaborators, including Enia, the National Congress, but also other organizations in the region. So, yeah, on a regional level, we are trying to do as much as possible, and we would like to have this continue next year as well, on the same line as we support the local context.
And maybe why not have another podcast next year?
Yeah, definitely.
Where we will be for sure wiser, more knowledgeable when it comes to the YPS, because who knows, what next year is going to bring when it comes to new initiatives and new needs, maybe, and perspectives. Is there anything? I think we're slowly coming to the end of of this podcast. Is there anything that's maybe you missed sharing and that you find it valuable to share in the end of this podcast? Or
Well, I would have a message for everyone who might be listening to this podcast. And it is just a quote. We should be work locally and inspire globally or regionally, since we're this is a project with different series of podcasts, but emphasizing the need to work with each other towards our same goals, and highlighting the importance of the YPS agenda and what it brings to us.
I love that we're both gonna end on a quote. No. I also really wanted to share something that's been inspiring to me in working with youth. It's a saying from Kurt Hahn, who is also the founder of the United World Colleges, and he says that there are three ways to capture the young. The first one is to preach at them. The second one is to coerce them. And the third one is a call that never fails. It's an appeal that says you are needed. And in that sense, I would encourage everyone who works for and with the youth to keep telling them and to show them, more so than telling, that they are needed and that this belongs to them, that it's their ownership of the collective positive society and attitude that we're trying to build. And on that note, I really hope that we all collectively continue to analyze the ethical environment of our times and to challenge the cultural violence that will always be present, but we're there to oppose it. So thank you very much for having us and for allowing us to talk about this important topic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean,
no?
I wouldn't imagine a better ending than this two amazing life lessons, I would say. And also a big thank you from our side for joining us, for doing this podcast, and for sharing all your insights on the YPS agenda, which I think it was a bit also more than the agenda in itself, but it was a real experience on peace.
Nothing more than a big faleminderit also from my side for being here and for sharing such inspiring messages and also personal experiences, I would say. So yeah, peace, it does begin with you and it does begin with youth. So keep the conversation alive and let us, have and support and manifest more youth-led initiatives, because in the end, it does bring out amazing young people as you are, but also all the young people that we are working with on the local and regional level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Faleminderit.
Thank you. Faleminderit.